This is Full-Time Devils. It's time for another huge debate. And today we're talking about the man of the moment, the man of this transfer market for Manchester United so far, Paul Pogba. If you believe the press, we are very, very close to securing this deal. And how ruddy exciting would that be? I'm joined by Squawka Dave, Howson and Italian football expert Marco. How's it going, guys? You okay?
Good.
What's up, man?
Very good.
Nice one, guys. Right, well, let's start with Paul Pogba. If we get him, can we win the league? Or should we win the league? Are we favourites? Do we have the best squad in the division? We'll start with Howson. Howson, tell me.
I think Paul Pogba would elevate United's current squad to being favourites. Yeah, I mean, obviously we came fifth last season, drew fourth place with City, who've not really stepped forward apart from their appointment of Guardiola. It's probably an upgrade on what they've just had. But in terms of the squad doesn't look like it's improved in the slightst for me. You can say Gundogan's a good midfielder. Yeah, he is, but he's going to be injured most of the time. The rest of the top four haven't took a step forward yet. There's not really any transfers. Arsenal have signed a load of like-minded midfielders, which they've already got 27 of. Leicester are losing players. So you've got to say who's advanced at the moment. Chelsea have advanced, but they're coming from a lot further back. So Manchester United, for me, if they sign Pogba, have undoubtedly done the best business in this window. Now, there's obviously still time left in the window for that to change. But as it stands, if we sign Pogba today or tomorrow or whenever, then Manchester United have definitely done the best business. We've got a manager who knows the league. We've got a very young and capable squad. We've got Luke Shaw back. That's like a world-class signing for us. I make us favourites.
Marco, you've obviously seen a lot of Paul Pogba play in the last few seasons at Juventus. Do you think he really is that good in terms of taking a team that finished fifth last season to being favourites to win the Premier League?
Listen, it's a good point. And, Juventus were in a similar state to where Manchester United was a few years ago, coming off 2 seventh-place finishes. And Pogba, when he joined the club, he really stepped up. He's young. He's a young player, but he seems like he holds the pressure on his shoulders and he handles it and he thrives off of it. And, we've seen him play with Pirlo and with great players in the Juventus midfield, and he's really done well. So I think if he does go to Manchester United, he could really fit into this team and be a leader, which I think Manchester United have really lacked.
So do you think that it would make Man United favourites then?
There's a lot of good competition in the Premier League. Being a Serie A fan, I'm extremely excited, too, just to watch the Premier League. I think it definitely puts Manchester United up there with the favourites. I think not just Pogba, but the whole team as a whole, I think he adds to the team and just makes the quality of the entire group a lot better.
Squawka Dave, is it a little bit more complicated then? Is it not just a case of get Paul Pogba, win the league, or is he really that elite in your opinion?
Well, I think that it is that. I've said it before. If United sign Paul Pogba, they will go on to win the league. He's the missing link in that midfield. What he has in abundance is he's so explosive. He's so good at changing the tempo of a move, getting Juventus last season into the final third and really coming alive. You look at some of the assists he got last season, he's really capable of just creating a goal out of absolutely nothing. Registered 12 assists in Serie A, no player managed more. But what else he's got? He's got technique when he's striking the ball. So another thing Man United lacked last season was players shooting. Paul Pogba could really hit a football. Scored 8 goals last season, which is a pretty decent return. He could definitely improve that if he moved, got himself into the penalty area a bit more, ran ahead of the forwards, because he's very composed in that area. And I think that's what United are going to get. A very explosive player, a player that's very, very calm in tricky situations, but also a very creative player. And it's what that Man United midfield lacks and needs.
So, Dave, you mentioned there about the position that he could potentially be playing. What do you think it will actually be at Man United? Because could he play as a number 10, or will he be one of those two holding midfielders that we sort of expect Jose Mourinho to start with?
So at Juventus last season, Juventus obviously playing a 3-5-2. But at times that looked like a 3-4-3, both in attack and defence. What Paul Pogba gave to that system in defence was a lot of pressing, a lot of aggression, getting in the opposition's face and trying to win that ball high up the pitch, which obviously will help for United. Or alternatively in attack, he drifted in the number 10 slot, he moved up, he went ahead of the forwards. His movement was really good in the 3-5-2, and he really understood his role in a three-man midfield. And that is where I'd like to see him at Manchester United, being the most advanced of a three-man midfield, be it one player holding, maybe Morgan Schneigl, then next to Bastian Schweinsteiger or Herrera, and then Paul Pogba playing left central midfield. I think Pogba is a playmaker and a player that can make the difference. And if United can get that out of him, they've got an absolutely fantastic talent, but also flexible. He can play anywhere, and that's why I think Mourinho's got him. Could play number 10, could play number 8, and could play number 6. So what United have is a complete forward that could get even better.
Marco, what do you think is his best position then? Where is he most impressed for Juventus?
David is spot on. In that three-man midfield, it really gives him freedom to move up because those two, that left center mid and the right center mid, can go up. And, we've all seen those Vine goals from Paul Pogba. It gives him the opportunity to shoot. And I think that that's something that we saw with France almost. I saw in the final, he was playing defensively a little bit more out of his position. In the three-man midfield, it gives him a little bit more freedom to go up, and he could do the defensive job a little bit differently with the security of a guy like Marquisio holding it down a little bit better.
So, Howson, we've heard Jose Mourinho talking about the likes of Wayne Rooney and that he's never going to play him as a holding midfielder. He's always going to be, that number 10 or number 9 or number 9.5, as he said. Does that mean that there is the opportunity? Does that mean that Paul Pogba will definitely be playing as a holding midfielder then? Or do you think there is sort of the opportunity that he could be played as a number 10 and Wayne Rooney could actually be dropped at Man United?
There's more positions in midfield than holding midfielder or number 10, mate. And I think Paul Pogba is the box-to-box midfielder. You want him defensively, you want him offensively. For Juventus, from the games I saw, they whether they played 5 in the middle or 3 in the middle, whatever, there was like a triangle of players, and Paul Pogba sort of played on the left side of that. And I think he could do the exact same thing. If you look at that at Manchester United, I think we might see Mourinho evolve the 4-2-3-1 that he plays into a 4-3-3 to accommodate what could be a really strong midfield. And like Dave said, you can see Herrera on the other side of that. Herrera can do a box-to-box job, especially if he's got 2 other midfielders in there with him. That allows him a little bit of freedom. Pogba, we've seen him on the edge of the box. He scores spectacular goals, and it's been a while since we've had spectacular goals from midfield. That I'm excited about. But also defensively, the guy's an absolute athlete, isn't he?
Yeah.
He can cover every blade of grass. He's enormous. He can score goals. He's a threat aerially in the box going forward. He's an asset aerially in the box defending. And I think if you had somebody like a Schneidlin or even a Carrick that was sat behind him, mopping up any attacks and then just feeding him for him to then release it through to the attacking players, I think you've got a real fluid movement through Manchester United. And it's not just that, it's the little things that world-class players do as well. It's the positions he takes up when we're in possession. It's the positions he takes up when we're not in possession. It's that game-changing ability from midfield that we've not had for a long time. Paul Pogba is that in a very expensive but very attractive package for me.
Well, you mentioned the price, and I know you're going to have a lot to say about this, Howson, so I'll come to you first. 100 million is what's being rumoured, maybe even more if you include the agent fees. Are you bothered that we're spending that much money?
Proper, full-on arsed, mate. We spent $1 billion on debt. We spend 100 million every single season just because the name on over the door has changed at Old Trafford and it's never improved the side. We could have spent 100 million every single season since the Glazers would have come and not be in a single different position, except that we're probably earning more money through prize money and the amount of Champions Leagues that we'd have won if we'd have spent 100 million every single season. I don't give a shit. Pay the money, get the player in. And I don't even want to see us go for an alternative. If this is the guy that we're willing to spend 100 million on, spend the 100 million, get him through the door, and let's see what we can do.
Absolutely bang on, completely agree. Dave, are you in the same boat?
I think the market's changed in football. We all know that, when the £1 billion player is going to come in the next 3 to 5 years. So in terms of the cash, if they've got it, why not spend it? And I just think that's the kind of thing. If you've got a player of his calibre, of Paul Pogba's calibre, and his potential, 23 years old still, we forget that. We think he's a finished prospect. At the Euros in the final, we didn't see a very good Paul Pogba. Again, reiterating what the lad said before, he was playing defensively, and it doesn't suit him yet. But that's the thing. Paul Pogba can evolve when he's 30 years old to play that role. Playing with Marquisio and Pirlo, 2 of the best deep line playmakers in world football. Eventually, it'll click for Paul Pogba in that position, and that's what we've got. A player that could play at number 10 at the start of his career, then drop further and further back, and then eventually being a dictating midfielder. So the potential is endless, and I'd just throw 100 million at it. Why not?
Marco, talking about the price, were you shocked when you heard that Manchester United were willing to pay that much money for Paul Pogba? Do you actually think that he's worth that much money?
It's hard to say what a player is worth. And as Dave said, I think sometimes we forget how young he is. He is just 23 and he's developed so much. And over the years, when he joined Juventus at 21, 22 years old, and he helped move a midfield of Vidal, Marquisio, and Pirlo and made his mark there. I think that says a lot, the ability to play with those players. And he has developed, taking free kicks, for instance. He's gotten much better at that. I think, as a marketing aspect, he's definitely going to make the money back. He's one of the most marketable, I think, rising stars in football at the moment, with his things with Adidas and stuff. So I think that, the money can be talked a lot. But then when he comes on the field and he performs, everyone forgets about the price tag.
It's all rather exciting, and I'm not going to lie, over the past few months, I have completely ruled out any possible chance of United signing Paul Pogba. I thought it's absolutely ridiculous, but now we're in a situation where it looks like it's probably going to happen. However, it hasn't happened yet, so there is still also a very, very small chance that this one could go, well, tits up, really. So, Howson, what about alternatives? Are there any players out there that you think we could go for if something were to happen with this Paul Pogba deal and it were to get called off?
There was 3 midfielders that I wanted to see us go for, and I'd call them marquee midfielders. And number 3 was Kante, and he's off the list now. He's obviously at Chelsea, but that was one that I would have absolutely loved. I love his energy. I love his attitude. I love what he would bring to the team. The other guy, and I think he's probably, at this moment, probably better in what he does, although I'm not sure if he would be a better fit for United, and that's Cruz. And I really rate Cruz. I think he's probably the number 1 midfielder in the world for me. Are you getting him out of Real Madrid? Not really, especially if we miss out on Pogba. Because I think what's going to happen with Pogba is I think he's going to leave Juventus to come to Manchester United, or he's going to stay at Juventus. I don't think he's going to Madrid. I don't think that's going to happen. So if Madrid don't get their man, there's no way that you're going to take one of their midfielders off them. So that's probably off the table as well. So like I said before, Pogba is the only one for me. Why are we going to settle for a diet version of Paul Pogba if we get Matuidi or someone like that? If we want Paul Pogba, we've got to go all out and get Paul Pogba. Let's not settle for second best this time. Yeah, let's settle for what we need and what we want. And if we want to get it, we've got to go for our first choice target. We talk the talk like we're Real Madrid and Barcelona and Bayern Munich, and we don't often walk the walk. This season, we've started to walk the walk. I want to see us continue to walk the walk. And the proof of that will be in landing the world record transfer fee for. Marco mentioned it. He's one of the most marketable players in world football. I actually read an article that said he is, outside of Messi and Ronaldo, he is the most marketable player in world football. So get him. That's it. Simple as that.
Dave, this is your question, really, isn't it, mate? Tell me about alternatives to Paul Pogba. Tell me what their pass percentage accuracy is.
We're not going to talk about pass completion rates, right, Gaz? We're going to talk about assists. And I think the one man that could potentially replace Paul Pogba's impact there could be Koke. I think Koke's a player that's really evolving, starting off Atletico Madrid, playing that sort of worker role on the right-hand side, but crossing the ball a lot and getting a lot of assists that way. And we saw in the Champions League final especially that he dictated that whole game. He was absolutely fantastic there. I think he's taken himself to that next level of midfielder. He's so all-rounded. And I think if they don't get Pogba, they've got to look for Koke, because I think he can evolve. He could play anywhere in Mourinho's system. He's very flexible. And he's a player that has a grit and determination that Simeone's really pulled out of him. So I feel like Koke could be the only man that could really be on the same level as Paul Pogba. But I think there's other midfielders out there, Dahoud from Borussia Mönchengladbach, another young up-and-coming midfielder, or maybe Dele Alli. These are all young players, but I think if you want something now, Koke is definitely your man if you're not going for Pogba.
Marco, do you think there's any alternatives out there that could go to Manchester United, maybe even midfielders that you've seen in Serie A which have impressed you?
As far as in the Serie A, I think the only other guy that I could see going to Manchester United or fitting there is Nainggolan, but it's going to be really difficult. I think he's extremely underrated, fantastic work rate. He's great on the ball, but I think that it's going to be really hard to lure him away from Roma. They lost Pjanic this season, so that will be a difficult one. As far as anyone else in the Serie A, I can't see them coming close to Pogba.
So it's hopefully going to get wrapped up very soon, this one. Either way, really, to be honest, I'm just sick of hearing about it. But guys, we are still really early in the transfer market, because I've seen people commenting just saying like, oh, we're taking too long with this. But this is the biggest transfer ever in football. Remember Gareth Bale to Real Madrid and how long that one took? That's what this one's going to be like, I think. And Howson, I don't really want to ask you this because it may come back to bite us in the arse, but are you excited?
I'm excited, mate. I was excited when I saw him as a 17, 18-year-old playing in the 18s and the under-21s. And when he made his debut, I was as excited as I was watching Fosu Mensah and Rashford make their debuts. And I pulled a tweet out about a couple of weeks ago that I found from 2012 when Pogba made his debut. And I said, Paul Pogba did everything right. He looks the complete player. I hope he's sensible and signs a new deal and continues to stay at Manchester United, because he could have a great career. Obviously, he didn't do that, but there's still time for us to get him back and for him to continue. I mean, I'm not sure you're going to see a 10-year career at Manchester United from him. I think he is probably going to eventually end up at Real Madrid or somewhere like that. But if we can get him in for 6 years or so, he's undoubtedly going to improve us. I do think this transfer is happening. I do think it's extremely close. And as you mentioned, it's the biggest transfer in history. So these things do take time. I mean, even just scheduling out how you're going to pay £100 million can't be just decided over a cup of coffee, can it? I can't imagine how many reams of paper they're going to have to go through, how many lawyers are going to have to get in the mix. This is a complicated deal. This isn't going to be a very easy deal. There's going to be so much, especially with how marketable the player is, his image rights and all the different branding things and how that ties in with what's going on with Adidas for us and for him. This is an enormous financial deal, as well as, we just think, oh, I've played Footy Manager, you just go bush, offer him the money, and then he comes, boom, done. I don't think it's like that. I think there's a lot more to it, and I think there's a lot of stuff that we don't even know about that happens in negotiating transfers. So don't worry about it. Euros only ended like 2 weeks ago, so there's plenty of time left, like 6 weeks left in the window or something. There's absolutely plenty of time for this to happen. We all want it to happen as soon as possible so we can get in, get training, and get some rhythm with the rest of the team. But you know what? If it happens on the last day, I'll still be delighted.
So, everyone's pretty positive, aren't they, about Paul Pogba? Go out and spend the money. Who's asked? It's not ours. Guys, get in the comments below. Give us your opinion. And I know what a lot of you are going to start doing now, or some of you. You're going to go, oh, why are we paying 100 million for Pogba? He's not worth it. He's overrated. Who's asked? It's not your money. Just go out and spend it, and hopefully we can get this transfer done very soon. Cheers to Squawka Dave, and cheers to Howson for joining us today, and cheers to Marco as well. Make sure you go and subscribe to Italian Football TV on YouTube to go and see all the latest Serie A gossip, news, and everything that goes on in that absolutely fantastic league. Guys, thanks for joining us. Give us a like, give us a subscribe. I'm Gaz, Full-Time Devils. Laters.
This is the transfer review, where we talk about everything going on in the world of Manchester United and the transfer window in the summer. I'm outside Old Trafford. I'm not on a chair, but you just have to deal with it.